Good morning. You know, starting a family may seem to be the most natural thing in the world. You just open a bottle of wine and 9 months later, bam. But for 1 in 6 couples, it's not that at all. It's an emotional, physical, and financial struggle.
And one we just don't talk about publicly very often. That's the driving force behind Seattle's first ever Race for Fertility, a fertility grant giving $5,000. The race at the end of this month, which also happens to be Infertility Awareness Month.
So we really wanted to dive into this topic. Joining us to talk more about the race itself and the issues surrounding infertility, we have Dr. Lora Shahine from Pacific Northwest Fertility and Tamara Tobias, nurse practitioner with Seattle Reproductive Medicine. Good morning to you both.
Thank you.
It's nice to have 2 different clinics represented here. You don't hear about that happening very often.
Well, we're better together.
Yes, we are.
The more heads that come together, the better. Now, I'm going to be honest. When I grew up, I did not hear about infertility. This was not a thing. People either had kids or they didn't. There was no talk about a struggle. It was just this thing that happened. Are we hearing more about it because more people are going through infertility or because more people are talking about it?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that there is more awareness of infertility, and I think that's a wonderful thing. It's been surrounded by shame and guilt for so long, and finally people are talking about it. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I do think it is more the awareness as well. And technology is changing and advancing. So even within the last 5 years, we have advances like egg freezing, which we didn't even have before. So I think there is definitely an increased awareness.
And different ways of making your family. My husband and I, for example, have a different story than other families and how we made our family happen, for example. I'm wondering if you could help define infertility for us in pretty simple terms. You know, when we talk about, for example, male factor versus female factor, what about recurrent miscarriage? I mean, if you could kind of paint us a picture, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, sure. So infertility from a textbook is trying to conceive for about a year and not being able to conceive. And that affects about 15 to 20% of the population. So about 80% of the time, a couple will conceive within the first year of trying.
And so for the 20% who don't?
That's technically infertility, and it's a great time to do a little evaluation and ask some more questions.
What about recurrent miscarriage? Is that under the umbrella of infertility, or is that something separate?
Well, it's defined differently, but in the same way, someone's struggling to start their family, and it's not happening. So in recurrent miscarriage, people are conceiving, so it's not the definition of infertility, but at the end of the day, they still don't have their family yet. You
both work extensively with people trying to start their families. I know that you work closely with patients. You see their frustration at hand. Stress has to come into it. Going through infertility treatments is stressful. But then you read so many things. And the first thing people will say to you if you haven't been able to start your family is, just relax. What's wrong with you? You're so stressed. You're right. Stressed out people never get pregnant. Never. Only easygoing people are allowed to become parents. How do you counsel? You both work with patients. I want to hear from both of you about what you say to your patients about stress and the impact on fertility or not.
Well, Dr. Shahine actually wrote a blog all about stress. I'll let you start with that one.
That's great. Well, it's the most common question that Tamara and I get. We're actually talking about it before we come on. And it's sort of a chicken and the egg scenario. So not being able to start your family is stressful. Going through treatments can be stressful. And it's very circular. And there's got to be a little bit of a mind-body connection, but I think one of the worst things that we can say is don't stress. Then you start stressing
not to stress.
And so we both talk to our patients about we can't control stress. We can't manage what happens to us, but we can manage how we deal with it. And there's a lot of resources in the community for helping people manage stress.
And resources like Resolve. Resolve is a patient-led support group. We have 8 support groups now with Resolve, which is amazing. Years ago, we had 1 or none. We have yoga for fertility, mind-body programs, counselors. And my thing I tell patients all the time is walk. Even in the rainy days, if you can just get outside, and 15 minutes just to get outside, take that deep breath, and go for a walk.
Which is a perfect place for us to ask about the Fertility Walk itself.
Yes, a good lead. So Fertility Walk all started because of this guy. So Fertility Walk is a book that I wrote for 2 reasons. One was it's just a simple guide to help patients beginning that fertility journey, and I describe it as a walk. And then the second reason is that proceeds from this book go to Fertility Walk Hope Fund, which is a nonprofit I started to provide grants to those who can't afford treatment. So Dr. Shahine and I were talking, and she said, you have to do a walk. And I said, great, we could do a walk, but how am I going to do this? So I started just going on the internet, and I really feel it was like the law of attraction. I stumbled across Footsteps for Fertility, and they too are a nonprofit organization, and they do 5K races in which they get grants that'll give back to the patients at the end of the race. And so after I chatted with them, I called all the local fertility practices, and long behold, now we're giving away free IVF cycles. The winners are going to get free genetic screening as well as $1,000 towards meds. All the patients that register are going to get a copy of Fertility Walk. And we've raised enough money so far to give away 2 $5,000 grants in addition. So pretty incredible.
We have to talk about the cost of this, because for people who have never gone through this, it's not as simple as showing up and your insurance covers it. Every insurance is different. Some insurance will cover a lot, some will cover none.
Exactly.
What are you seeing in the numbers as far as, I mean, is there an average of what the average person or couple might have to pay?
Sure, I think that in general, an average number is a single IVF cycle might cost about $12,000.
Just for one try to get pregnant.
One try, which we know may not always work the first try. Plus the cost of medications. So the medications can run up between $3,000 to $4,000.
On top of just the traditional cost of having a baby.
Right.
True.
I know, but there is more insurance coverage now than ever before. In Washington State, it's not mandated that insurance covers fertility treatments, but there are several businesses and companies that do help their employees with coverage.
Which has been fantastic here in Seattle.
Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say that since this is such an important month about raising awareness, so if I can't go to the walk or I, how could I still help? And just talking about it, I feel like, is sort of a step in the right direction. But how else can folks help?
That's great. Well, the whole month of April is Infertility Awareness Month. And we kicked it off with an art exhibit at the Seattle Center in the A&T Gallery. It's a really special exhibit. It's called The Art of Infertility, which is a play on assisted reproductive technology, the art of infertility. And it's a collection of works by infertility patients, and it's done by Elizabeth Walker and Maria Novacek, and they put this together, and it's a traveling exhibit, and we worked really hard to bring it to Seattle, and it opened on April 1st. There's 2 movies and documentaries about infertility that are showing. One already showed on April 2nd. That was One More Shot, a wonderful documentary.
That's fantastic,
and the second one is on April 27th, and that is Vegas Baby. It's another documentary that's going to be shown. And the art exhibit is open all month, and the walk is April 22nd. What time?
9 to 11 at Seward Park.
Perfect. Thank you so much. There's so much to talk about this that we're going to keep them and tape another segment so that we can field some of your questions and unpack this even more. So, Dr. Lora Shahine, really appreciate it. Tamara, Tobias, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
No, it's a really important topic. And again, the Race for Fertility is April 22nd at Seattle Seward Park. You can learn more by visiting footstepsforfertility.org and just click on events.